Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome back to another lecture. In this lecture, we're going to talk about measurement and evaluation in counseling. In this session, we're going to cover some of the core foundations of assessment and measurement that every counselor or educator or evaluator needs to know. We're going to explore basically seven things: measurement scales, norm reference and criterion reference assessments, assessments of central tendencies, measures of variability, normal distributions, standard scores and standing, and evaluating norming groups. Hopefully, by the end of this, you'll have a clear understanding of how these concepts work together to ensure fair, valid, and reliable interpretation of test results. I encourage you to take notes and rewatch the video as often as you have to. And if you have any questions or need more clarification, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Um, measurement scales. Measurement scales describe how data is categorized, ordered, and the level of precision in numbers. We have four main types. There's a nominal scale, and they are labels or categories without any particular order. Examples are gender, ethnicity, types of counseling interventions. They usually are represented by numbers and they are uh, just labels. They don't have no quantities, value. Um, Ordinal scales, data with order or rank, but no equal intervals between the rank. Ranking coping skills from first to fifth most effective. Um, Key points tells you a little bit more or less, but not how much more. Interval scales order data with equal intervals, but no true zero. Example, IQ scores, temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit. Key points are you can compare differences, but ratios don't make sense. Okay. And in ratio scales, they're ordered, equal intervals, and an absolute zero. For example, age, weight, height, income. Ratios are meaningful. 20 pounds is twice as heavy as 10 pounds. So understanding scales is critical because it determines the type of statistical analysis you can use. Okay. When we looked at norm references versus criterion reference assessments, norm reference, the purpose is compares a person's performance to a defined group. Example, a standardized counseling licensure exam. The best way I can explain this is you're scored in the top 25% compared to others. That's a norm reference. A criterion reference is a measurement performed against a fixed set of standards. A counseling ethics exam where 80% was correct and passing. So you know what the passing score is. Right off the top of that is a fixed standard. The key differences between a norm reference and a criterion reference is a norm reference tells you about relative performance as a comparison. A criterion reference tells you about your absolute mastery of a particular topic. Measures of central tendencies. This is very important. These give us a single score that represent the central points of a data set. You have three major points of a central tendency. The mean, and that's the arithmetic average, sensitive to extreme scores. The median, the middle score when data is ordered, less sensitive to outliers. And mode, the most frequent occurring score using for categorical data. So an example of this is if we had counseling sessions in the length of 45 minutes, 120 minutes, 50 minutes, 50 minutes, and then 55 minutes. What we'll do is we'll put them, when we take the mean, we'll take all those scores 45, 120, 50, 50, and 55 added up, and then we'll divide the total by 5. Okay. And that will give us arithmetic average of 64. So the mean will be 64. The median is the one that's most representative. So we got 45, 120, 55, 50, and 50. 50 is represented twice. We had two 50-minute counting sessions. So that's the most representative. So the median will be 50. So when you line it up in order, it'll be 45 on one end, 120 on the other end, and then 50, 50, 55. So it'd be 45, 50, 50, 55, 120. So we do that in rank order. We'll look at it to where it's like we'll eliminate the first two of 45, 50, and the last two, 55 and 120, and in the middle, the median will be 50. And then the mode will be 50 minutes, okay? Because it's the most frequent score. So we have two 50-minute sessions, and every other session is represented only one time. The measurements of variability. Variability tells us how spread out scores are. The range is highest minus the lowest. A variance is the average of square differences from the mean. And standard deviation is square root of the variance. And it shows the average distance from the mean to the original unit. Why it matters in counseling research, knowing variability help us understand consistency in client progress or test performance. Normal distribution. Normal distribution is the thing we call the bell-shaped curve, where most scores clutter around the mean. It's symmetric. It's the mean, mode, and the median, and all got the same value. About 68% of the scores are within one standard deviation from the mean, as far as a plus or minus, and about 95% are within the two plus or minus of the standard deviations from the mean. Most psychological assessments are designed to produce normal distribution scores for accurate comparison. Standard scores and standings convert raw scores into standard scores convert raw scores into a scale with a known mean and a standard deviation. For example, Z scores, T scores, and stanines. Z scores, the mean is 0, standard deviation is 1. T score, mean is 50, standard deviation is 10. Percentile rankings show percentage of scores below a given score. Example, a 75 percentile rank means you score better than 75% of the normal group. Why we use them is because it makes interpretation easier and comparable across tests. When we evaluate norming groups, when we're using norm reference tests, the quality of the norming group matters. It must be representative, and does it reflect the population you're assessing, as far as the age, the ethnicity, the education, location, sample size. Larger is generally more reliable. So the larger your sample size for a norming group is usually more reliable. And recency, norms should be updated periodically to account for societal changes. Cultural relevance. Norms must reflect diversity to avoid bias in interpretation. To briefly summarize, measurement skills determine the kind of data and statistics you can use. Norm versus criterion tells you whether you're comparing to others or to a standard. And central tendencies and variability help describe data. Normal distributions and standard scores make results interpretable. And evaluating norm groups ensure fairness and accuracy. So understanding these concepts helps you become not just a consumer of test data, but a critical evaluator, essential in counseling practices. So I'd like to thank you. And like I said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and see you soon.